With Ron being sold and all our belongings being shipped to Sweden, we donated the last things we didn't need and said our last goodbye to Ron.
The border crossing went smooth, and now we have picked up a car and are on our way to Los Angeles, where we're going to fly out from tomorrow from LAX. But first we're heading for Long Beach, where we're going to meet John, one of our followers. He contacted us when he saw that we were selling Ron, because he has a boat that he's selling that we might be interested in. And it's actually the original Deerfoot. Pretty big boat, the Deerfoot 68. It will be really interesting to see this boat, so I'm looking forward to that. So now the official search for round 2 has started, and I'm really excited for this. It'll be fun.
We're down in Alamitos Bay now, just south of Long Beach. It belongs to Seal Beach. This is where the boat is. So just having a little bit of lunch now, and we're gonna check out the boat. Exciting, like our first boat that we're looking at. I think this one is a bit more, for fun, because it is very, very big. But special boat.
Come on aboard.
Thank you. Hi.
Pleasure meeting you.
You too.
John Fradkin.
Morning.
Hi, John.
Nice to meet you, sir.
Wow.
I feel like I know you guys. You don't know me, but
The Deerfoot 68 from 1980 was designed by the famous naval architect Doug Peterson, with the design concept coming from Steve Dashew, who later will continue evolving the Deerfoot design, improving the concept to perfection with boats like the Sundeers and the mythical Beowulf, but also the rugged and fuel-efficient FPB motorboat designs.
So the boat is 68 feet, and I think the length to beam ratio is around 1:5, so it's a really skinny boat, which makes it very easily driven in the water. So as you can see, the mast isn't, it's not that tall to be on a 68 feet boat, and that's because it's so narrow, so it doesn't take big sails to drive it fast. And that's what's, I guess, one of the secrets behind this type of design, that you can have a 68 foot boat but still manage it pretty easily on 2 people, like a sailing couple. So the hull is balsa cord down to the waterline, and the deck has it's really plywood, which is glassed over. Feels really sturdy, the whole boat. And below the waterline is just solid glass. Lead keel bolted on in it's like a steel frame with lead in, and also there's this tank on top of that, so you could prop the whole keel off by releasing all the keel bolts.
So the engine was 2000?
yes, it's a Yanmar 140 horse, and all the hydraulics were new except for what I call the hydraulic motor in the bilge, which attaches to the shaft.
The engine compartment is located in the far aft of the boat. The engine sits to starboard and the genset on the port side. This setup is possible because the drivetrain is hydraulic. On the engine sits a big hydraulic pump that pumps oil to a hydraulic motor that is connected to the prop shaft. This way it's been possible to put most of the technical gear in one big engine room, and also making it watertight and with easy access for service.
Once it starts, I flip it back to 1. Yeah. That's forward. Yeah. Neutral. Reverse.
It's a pretty big rudder on these boats, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a spade runner with a skeg.
Yeah.
The mast is fairly new, from 2004, and made of carbon fiber, keeping the weight down but still very strong. It has rod rigging instead of wire, which makes it a bit more complex in my book, but also helps to keep the weight down up high. I first got to know about Steve Dashew and his designs from one of his books, The Offshore Cruising Encyclopedia. A really great book that in an easy way explains a lot about different design criteria in cruising boats, and lots of other stuff. He actually gives it away for free nowadays, with a PDF that you can download from his website. We'll put a link in the description below.
And my wife lowers it down to me, and the engine only weighs like...
I must say I really fell in love with Steve's design concepts after reading the book. You get a very fast boat that is still seaworthy and safe to handle for a cruising couple or even single-handed. And nowadays, with easy availability and low cost of good, reliable weather forecasts, there's even more to say in favor of speed as a safety factor at sea.
Table of what that looks like. So this is the Volvo part.
Because it's a pretty long keel on this boat, right?
Yeah, it's probably it's pretty long. Maybe I don't know, 15 feet.
Yeah.
Maybe less.
There's actually a diesel tank sitting on top of the keel, inside the box.
You know, just maybe once every 3 months or so.
That's the prop shaft, hydraulic motor with the hydraulic hoses going back to the engine in the stern. And the salon I really like the salon. It feels airy, light, and because this wood is really nice. It's a New Zealand wood, kauri, something like that. Wood. It's teak-like in its properties, but they say it's better than teak. I think it looks really nice. Yeah, pretty special, but
yeah, it is.
So behind this wall there is like a collision bulkhead. So that whole compartment behind this wall is it's watertight. And I think in the stern, where the engine compartment is, that's also a separate watertight compartment. So up here you have 2 beds. Head with shower, some storage, another head with a shower, and another cabin. I would love to sail on this boat. But I guess the biggest problem is the marina prices, 68 feet, that's expensive in marinas, and also the haulouts. And of course some of the maintenance. But to be a big boat like this, I think the maintenance is actually a lot lower than on other 68-foot boats, because this mast is a lot smaller, the sail plan. It has a pretty thin or narrow beam at the waterline, so the hull is really easily driven. I think the entry angle up front is 11 degrees, so it's really pointy, slices the waves. It's almost like a needle, so the hull is really easily driven, so it doesn't take a big sail area to drive the boat. And I wouldn't say it's overly complicated. There's not too much of expensive equipment. Pretty massive, that room up front.
Yeah, but it's...
We have the galley with one freezer and 2 fridges. 3-burner stove and quite a lot of storage. Navigation, electrical panel, and then back here we have the owner's cabin. It's a bit less headroom back here, but it's still okay. There's a bit bigger bed. It feels very light in here because there's these prisms in 4 places, and then of course the hatch, and then another head with a separate shower stall.
Did his dad also live here? Dashes?
Steve Dashes, yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's,
the boat lived
okay,
in-
so it's been here
Yeah,
from the beginning.
yeah, it has. Yeah, so I think it came from New Zealand on its own bottom,
Yeah.
and then I think it went cruising in Mexico and in Alaska
Hmm?
before I had it, and then we took it to Mexico.
Yeah.
So the bottom line, we would have loved to have a Steve Dasher design as our new boat. Just imagine clipping along easily and in full control at 10 to 14 knots, with possible daily runs close to 300 nautical miles. But the reality is that the very long haul makes it too expensive for our budget. That being said, for being a 68-foot boat, it probably doesn't get much cheaper maintenance-wise for a boat this size, since so much of this was thought about in the design process. Jan told us he's ready to sell his Deerfoot for around $200,000 US, which is a lot of boat for the money, if you can afford the maintenance and the marina fees.
After an 11-hour flight, we landed in Copenhagen, which is just a bridge crossing away from our hometown Malmö in Sweden. We were quite lucky that there was still some summer left, and it felt so good to be around family and friends again. It's not going to be easy to find our future boat and home that we'll continue our travels with. There are lots of things to think about, especially now with our daughter on the way, and we hope you will join us on the journey. If you enjoy watching our videos, you can support future ones by becoming a patron. See you next week!